Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slam Up Wrestling. Myself, Supreet, and this is your NXT review for what's the date, Spandan? What's the date, Spandan?
4th May in US, 5th for us.
So I'm joined by Spandan here, the current WFE champion. What's up, Spandan?
I am fine, Supreet. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. So before we talk about this week's NXT, I wanted to get your general thoughts about NXT. Going to Tuesdays. Is Does
Okay.
NXT feel different to you now that they are for on a different night, not going head to head with AEW?
Okay. So NXT going to Tuesdays gives us more entertainment, I say, because for Indians, we get Tuesdays Raw, Wednesday we get NXT, and then Thursday we get AEW. So it's spreading out, and plus NXT moving to Tuesdays gives them better scope of entertaining the AEW audience as well if they like to watch NXT. And in that sense, they have a new logo. They feel different. I like the show generally now. So in that sense, yes, I think NXT benefited moving to Tuesdays.
So what you think about this week's NXT then?
This week's NXT was entertaining, and I like the fact that they're randomly putting women in the main event and not making a big scene out of it, which makes it feel normal and is equalizing the talent. I like the fact that Triple H and William Regal and the production, they're putting in women in the main event without making a big scene out of it. I like that fact.
So let's go through the card here. We had Isaiah Swerve Scott versus Leon Ruff. We had the return of Finn Balor. We had the grizzled young veterans. So these guys faced Tommaso
Mhm.
Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher. And like you said, in the main event, we had a little women's tag team match. Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon defending the titles against The Way, Candice LeRae, and Indy Hartwell, and so much more. But before that, if you are new to this channel, then make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Also, check out our AEW Dynamite review and the main roster talk. Everything you need is in the description below. So let's start from the top, man. We had Isaiah Swerve Scott versus Leon Ruff. So this was, a mini feud between these two guys. I think Leon
Yeah.
Ruff scored 2 victories over Scott, if I'm not wrong.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think was this a false count anywhere?
Yeah, it was.
So about the match was okay, good. We had Isaiah Swerve Scott winning thanks to one of his
Mhm.
members from his entourage, and we later learned that these guys are the same people that have been appearing in his video packages that you have seen for the past few weeks. So Scott wins here. So thoughts on this match and this small mini feud that is going on in NXT?
Okay. So not disrespecting Leon Ruff here, but I think he would make a great superstar in 205 Live. Just be the size of that man or something, but I think he would be a very good superstar for the cruiserweight division. Speaking about the match itself, I think it had great spots, fast pace, so they didn't stop and do a lot of botches. I didn't see a lot of botches there. So it was a quick pace match. I like that fact. The favorite spot for me, without using a lot of tools and stuff, was the vertical suplex that Scott gave Leon Ruff. They gave a tremendous height to that suplex. So I like that much. So Scott, in the sense, if you think about it, Suprit, it seems like a heel Kofi Kingston. I don't know why, but when I see Scott fight, I instantly think of Kofi Kingston if he was a heel. I think Scott will make a good superstar in the future. If this match, I would rate it a good 3.75 or something. I like the match.
Like you said, if you want me to criticize Leon Ruff, so I
Hmm.
didn't get why, if you want to see the match, how the match ended. So they quote unquote, protected Leon Ruff. So my question
Yeah.
is Leon Ruff that much of an asset to NXT? Like, why?
Okay. So the guy, a big guy called AJ Francis, I noted his name. AJ Francis was the guy who attacked, Leon Ruff. So I think Leon Ruff, the fact that they gave him the North American Championship, I thought that it was the push that he needed and he deserved. After all the work and all of that, they gave him the North American title for a reason. So I think they wanted to push him, and they want to push him now as well. So maybe that could be the reason they're protecting him. But I think they did a really good job of making Scott the big man here and pushing him the right way and proving that he's a big guy in this, not in the sense of size, but in the sense of status in NXT. He's a big contender in the future.
I think the only reason they gave the North American Championship to Leon Ruff was for the shock factor, nothing much.
Yeah.
Like there was no
Like the
story.
fact that,
There was no story. Like this guy was
yeah,
jobbing out to Karrion Kross 1 week and he wins the North American Championship. Really didn't make any sense.
he was on the Raw episodes as well. He was on Raw and SmackDown jobbing to Sheamus and Aleister Black on the PC era, the time they were in the Performance Center. Plus, at that time, Damian Priest was kind of on his exit from NXT. So during that time, perhaps they needed someone to just fill that spot for a couple of weeks, and maybe they used Leon Ruff for that spot.
Let's see, man. So I think they are not about to end this feud with Leon Ruff and Isaiah Scott. And Isaiah
Yeah.
Scott is getting, I think, a new faction with this entourage.
Hmm. So this big guy called AJ Francis and the couple of people that we saw when they were celebrating their win. So they could be forming the next faction because obviously recently NXT lost the biggest faction, Undisputed Era. They're reforming the Imperium slowly. So probably they're building another faction.
Let's see where this goes. Let's get to Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory. So these guys, were heading to William Regal's office. I think Gargano is mad that that Bronson Reed is getting that title shot, the North American title shot. So they get to the office. There was Scarlett over there. So he's arguing with Regal. He's bad mouthing Scarlett. Austin Theory. He's impressed with Scarlett's big nails. That's it. Fun segment here, and we'll get to the entire Cross and NXT Championship deal. So, but before that, we have Cameron Grimes versus who's this guy?
Azure Hale.
So Azure Hale is a new guy, I think.
Yeah.
So nothing much here. A 3-minute match. Cameron Grimes wins with the cave-in. Nothing much. I think Azure Hale, could be, something in that cruiserweight division.
Yeah, because superstars on NXT, the issue is if you job on Raw and SmackDown, there's a bigger audience watching you and you're kind of in a small way buried. But in NXT, even the superstars who lose, they're kind of being pushed to the higher level. Maybe you lose, maybe you get Leon Ruff, biggest example. You said he was jobbing to Cross 1 week and the next week he's winning the North American title. So they use superstars in proper ways. So I think Azure Hale could do good because he handled himself very well against Grimes.
So speaking about Grimes, so this guy, had a big post-match celebration. He went to a club somewhere. So he tries to get inside this club, but is stopped by a bouncer, I guess. So the reason was that this entire club was bought by the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase.
Yep.
So there you go. They are still continuing this Cameron Grimes, Ted DiBiase stuff. What do you think about this two mingling with each other?
It's actually good, instead of single-handedly using Grimes as the person who loves money, loves spending on expensive things, it's a good way to, include $1 million man because obviously he's doing the same thing from the past. So including him in the story also gives time to a legend, which means Cameron Grimes is important. If $1 million man is in a segment with him, proves that he's important for the company. So in that way, I think it's a good way to use him.
Technically, he's the best thing going on in NXT right now.
I could agree, but I think there are separate things that could be called as the best one.
Let's see, man. We had Xia Li and who's this? Sorry, it's not Xia Li. I was talking about Casey Catanzaro and Karen Carter. So they had a little interview segment. So they talk about they are done with Xia Li and Tia Shah and said they want to go after the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. So a little small interruption by Frankie Monet. She talks some trash and just leaves. And that's the thing going on with Frankie Monet. She interrupts
Hmm.
literally every big star in the women's division, talks some trash, and just leaves. Like they are really holding up on this big debut of her.
They probably, if you could compare it to Fandango in 2013, the way they kept postponing his debut. Each week, it would be like he's facing R-Truth, but he wouldn't. Next week, Bo Dallas, but he wouldn't. Finally, he debuts and beats freaking Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. So that way, I think they're holding her for the NXT Women's Championship in the future. They're going ahead with the Mercedes Martinez's and all these superstars. And probably around SummerSlam season, they'll bring in Frankie Monet. But I love the way they're using her.
And they also build up, Io Shirai's farewell match, I guess.
Yeah, they could use her in that as well. Io Shirai now losing the NXT Women's Championship. So bringing her to the main roster, big move, because main roster women's division, obviously, we have a lot of talking points there that they do not deliver as much as they should. So Io Shirai, I think, is going to be a good move.
And speaking about the women's division, what do you think about this Diamond Mine video packages that we have been getting for the last 2 weeks?
I don't know, man. Let's see what happens with this because it was related to the women's division.
So everybody is speculating that this is where we could be getting the debut of Tessa Blanchard.
Okay, so basically on the women's division, why I don't think it could be Tessa Blanchard is recently they have brought in Frankie Monet, which is of course Taya Valkyrie. So now bringing such a big star with such a big name in the other scenes, so I don't think they could bring in another one because that removes the spotlight of Frankie Monet. So I could see someone else debuting, but I don't see Tessa Blanchard here.
I think they want I think they want quantity over quality because for the last year
Okay.
or so, check out the women's division, man. I think they have signed every free agent out there. So why leave
Yeah.
Tessa Blanchard then?
In that sense, it could be true that you're saying quantity over quality because the NXT women's division is obviously very good. But from the past, I've noticed they've repeated matches a lot. So, in that sense, you could be right that they could be bringing in Tessa Blanchard.
Let's see, because Tessa Blanchard going to WWE is the most likely option here.
Yeah.
Let's get to Grizzled Young Veterans versus Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa. So we know we had the veterans, so these guys were disappointed that Ciampa and Thatcher told the fans to get their shoes out. Nothing much here. A solid match between these two teams. So at the end, we had Thatcher hitting James Drake with Wade Barrett's shoe and locks in an armbar for the win, and that's basically it. So it looks like they are destined to build Ciampa and Thatcher for those tag team championships.
Yeah, in this sense, actually, the match between these guys, I would name it as a proper hardcore 80s wrestling match. The way Timothy Thatcher and these guys wrestle, if you look at the attire of Timothy Thatcher, he's a proper old school wrestler. Seems like that. And superstars in the main roster, I would take Cesaro for the example. Those uppercuts and those forearms and all that. He's a modernized version. So this match, Grizzled Young Veterans, I love that team for this very fact that their wrestling style is very old school and they've lost a lot actually. The major matches, Dusty Classic finals and the title matches, they've lost a lot. But still, they are a major team, which proves that they have something in them.
But do you feel that this team is losing too much right now?
The Grizzled Young Veterans?
Yep.
I don't think so because as a heel team, just as I said, even after losing all these teams, I feel the team is important as a viewer, as a fan, which means they've maintained the character, which means even after losing, we feel that the team is important. As if you see, GYV is the major heel team in the faction, in the NXT, sorry. In the NXT, if you see, they're the main heel team. And if you build them with maybe losses, maybe they lose, and finally win the titles, that would be a good story. But I don't think they're losing a lot, and I don't think they're weak right now.
But let's see, man. These guys do deserve, their due to get those tag titles.
Actually, true.
And about Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa, do you think NXT puts the tag titles on them?
Okay, they could put the tag titles on them actually. MSK are a great team, not about that. But how randomly they brought Thatcher into the tag team, Ciampa into the tag team division. He just lost to Walter. There should be some story just for a few weeks moving in. But they randomly took him out of the UK title picture and put him in the tag division. So in that sense, it's okay. But as a team, they're really, really good. So if they go into the tag title picture and win the titles, I wouldn't see it as a problem at all.
I feel, this was done by design. You talked about Champa being randomly put in this tag team. I think this was done by design because, his end goal is to become NXT champion, get his redemption story. But
Absolutely.
as of now, it feels like it's not right to put him in that spot right now. So, and
Hmm.
Triple H thought, why not put him in a random tag team with Timothy Thatcher?
Yeah. In that way, it could be true that the NXT Championship and North American Championship picture is really full right now. So in that sense, they are using him in a good way. That also gives Thatcher a job too as a tag team. That's a good way to use him.
So speaking about the NXT Championship, where Karrion Cross coming out. So this guy said he's not afraid of anyone and he's wanting new challengers. So here comes Kyle O'Reilly with this awful new theme song. So speaking about before we head forward with this segment, I want to get your thoughts on this cool Kyle O'Reilly gimmick right now.
I think it's obvious to everyone that it's a jab at AEW. So it's probably Orange Cassidy's look and degraded at it. So Kyle O'Reilly they called him Cool Kyle. They called him Cool Kyle during the commentary today. So based on that look, I think it's a jab at AEW. But let's see what happens because now that he's taken down Adam Cole in that sense, so he's cooled down now that my major opponent is gone. I can chill out a bit.
So we had Kyle O'Reilly coming out. He talks some trash. Then here comes Pete Dunne saying that he deserves a title shot. And then finally, Finn Balor comes in, says he has beaten both Pete Dunne and Kyle O'Reilly. So he goes face to face with Cross. So we had a big brawl. Um, and what happened? We had Gargano and Austin Theory coming out and beating up Cross. So that was your base entire segment here. So do you think either Finn Balor, Kyle O'Reilly, or Pete Dunne are credible enough to take the title of Cross?
Okay. So personally, I'm a big fan of all these big stars coming out when there's a champion like Karrion Cross. So all these big stars of NXT single stars. And the way they build Karrion Cross, he's getting beat down by three single superstars. Then Gargano and Theory, he still tries to come out and he's not even falling down to a knee. And then finally they hit the three or four super kicks and take him down. They've built a very strong champion. Individually, when I look at Balor, Dunn, and Kyle O'Reilly, I don't think either of these three are credible challenges. The way they have built Karrion Cross, do you imagine either of these three taking the title off him? They need a big, and big means size big. I mean, a guy who's actually big enough as Cross to take the title off him. Out of these three, I don't see any of them.
If Tommaso Ciampa was free, then I would have taken him to take the title of Cross.
Good choice, actually. Tommaso Ciampa is a great superstar, perhaps the one guy who I think matches to Karrion Cross in that aspect. The heel aspect, the strength aspect, I think he matches. And the other three, I think Ciampa is better than these three.
But who do you think Spandan should take the title of Cross and when?
The when aspect, I think he should hold it for a long time because the first title reign had to be his big moment. He won it at a big pay-per-view. I think it was NXT 30 or something. So he won the title there. So it was his big moment, but unfortunately he got injured. So now that he's won the title, I think they want him to have a long title reign. And after that, probably we have some form of an Iron Man match or something. It goes into the deep waters, and maybe at that time, Kyle O'Reilly or someone like Finn Balor can take him down.
But how about if we want to fantasy book, let's get back Keith Lee. Let's
Hmm.
get back Keith Lee, and he could have his revenge, because Karen Cross was the one to take the title of Keith Lee. So this would be fitting for Keith Lee to get the title from Cross and be NXT champion again.
For a guy like Keith Lee, I think he's so good. And in the size matter, you can imagine Keith Lee taking the title off him. These guys, not discrediting Kyle O'Reilly and all these guys, but they look like small guys in front of Karrion Kross. Keith Lee is a big guy. But speaking of the other aspect, I don't see a lot of chances of him coming back to NXT because his main roster push was about to come. He, I think, got corona, which is why they gave the title to Riddle, the United States title. So I think his push is coming in the main roster. He won't be coming to NXT.
So what else did we have, man? I think we had Saray versus the one who beat.
We had
Tony
Saray
Storm.
versus Zeda Ramir.
So I
Yeah.
think Saray won here with the Exploder. And what you think about Saray so far, man? I believe I'm gonna give you my point of view. I think she's a really good wrestler, but there is that Joshi stigma because most fans don't like Joshi wrestling. But I really want to see how they make her stand out because Kairi Sane stood out, Asuka stood out. Io Shirai, when she came, had that typical Joshi gimmick, but when she went into the dark side, she became just another level of superstar. So, do you believe Saray should go through that same transformation?
And the thing that I noticed, I watched Saray's debut and now today's match. In today's match, what I noticed is she has really educated feet. The strikes, and we have known Japanese wrestlers to be good at striking, be it Nakamura, Asuka, or Shirai. So Saray was a great superstar based on feet, the kicks, the strikes, and in that sense, I think she's a really good talent. Now that we've seen Asuka grow so much, we've seen Io Shirai follow the same path, the Japanese women's champion path. I could see Saray as the NXT women's champion in the future, and I think she's really good in the ring.
But what you think about her character? Does that need a change?
It could need a change, man, but it's been 2 or 3 weeks. It's been only 2 or 3 weeks that she's come. Maybe a character change in the future, like Io Shirai or like Asuka, I think hasn't had a big character change. She just went from face to heel. It wasn't a really character change type. So she does need a character change maybe in the future. But again, I hope she doesn't become a victim of the lack of promo skills. She's Japanese. She has a lack of promo skills. I hope she doesn't become a victim of that.
No, she will become a victim when Vince gets her hands on.
True.
But speaking about victim, man. So after this whole thing, we had a little backstage segment involving these two women. So here comes Toni Storm to attack either one of them, and right on cue comes Zoe Starks. She's another one that she's a good wrestler, but she also needs some definition, a character. And about Zoe Starks, what do you think about her? I think she has been getting a bigger push compared to other new female talents that NXT has signed. What do you think about it?
Yeah, when you at Stand and Deliver, the night one kickoff, when you meet someone like Toni Storm, who's a accomplished wrestler in the sense that she's done a lot around the world, that means you have done something big. In that sense, plus on screen, when you put superstars like Zoe Stark, superstars like Zeda Ramir, or normal superstars with Frankie Monet, with Raquel Gonzalez, if you put them on the screen with these superstars, it gives them more importance, gives them more TV time, plus it means that they're getting a push in the future. In that sense, Zoe Stark, I think, is getting a push, beating Toni Storm at the pay-per-view in the kickoff show. Plus, in the future, there are a lot of contenders now that we see for the NXT Women's title.
So, and I think, see that they are trying to continue this whole thing with Toni Storm. I think she has been losing and losing and losing. And the way they are doing it, as a fan here, sitting here, I think, Toni Storm is the babyface here. There's no way, I'm booing someone like Toni Storm. Like she has certain charisma, and we as fans know how good she is. Zoe Starks on the other hand will know in return will get bored because how she's getting pushed,
Supreet, it takes a lot of courage and bravery from the production to make us fans believe in the face character, because Toni Storm is accomplished. We love her as a fan, and now you bring in someone like Zoe Stark and you make her the face, make Tony Storm the heel. Why would someone like us like Zoe Stark? Tony Storm, oh, she's so good in the ring, she's accomplished, she's the bigger wrestler. We like her. So it's difficult for them also to make us like the face character. But I like this about NXT that even the smallest of feuds, look at this feud. Tony Storm and Zoe Stark were in the kickoff show of Stand and Deliver, not even on the main show. And they're building this rivalry as well to the future. So I like that about NXT.
Let's see, man. Let's see, man, where this goes, because there's gonna be when
Mm.
Yoshirai leaves, then Tony Storm will be right there to take that
Take
top
that spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's get to I think it was LA Knight, if I'm not wrong. This guy faced
Yeah.
Tony Atlas. No,
Jake
it's Jake
Atlas.
Atlas. Yikes. Both are the same name. So we had LA Knight cutting a pre-match promo, just burying Jake Atlas here, saying that he's gonna kick him so hard that he'll have to find an Atlas. So something like that. So we had a small match here. I think LA Knight won with his headlock drive or something like that. I want to get your thoughts on LA Knight, man. Like normally when there's a new person, a new big signee in NXT, they normally get a strong push, a big push. But in LA Knight's case, he has, I think, taken 2 or 3 losses, and I think they kind of cooled him down. Run. So, what you think about LA Knight's booking so far?
So it's also not possible to bring in so many superstars and give them the big push. In that sense, I think they're booking him well, giving him these random wins against superstars who are a bit accomplished, like Jake Atlas. They're not rookies and jobbers. They are NXT originals. So giving him the wins against these guys, it's okay right now. Maybe he's getting the push in the future. But now that we see the Johnny Gargano, the North American champion, Cross, they're mixing up. Both these major champions are mixing up. So you don't have scope for more superstars to enter the scenario. You have 3 challengers in Dunn, Kyle O'Reilly, and Balor. You have the North American champion and the NXT champion mixing together. So I don't see scope for superstars like LA Knight entering the picture right now. After all of this ends, maybe Cross beats one of the challengers. Gargano is the champion at the same time. Then LA Knight enters the picture against Gargano probably, or Cross.
You also have to consider Bronson Reed. If he wins the North American Championship, then you can put LA Knight and Bronson Reed for the North American title again.
That feels better because as you see, the major 2 champions, Gargano and Cross, both are heels. And right now, LA Knight is also a heel. So if you want him to go against a face character, you probably need Bronson Reed to win the title. But again, I don't see Gargano losing the North American title very soon. So in that sense, I think Bronson Reed could be hanging around a bit. Maybe they could build a LA Knight and Bronson Reed rivalry without a title. That could push him well. You don't need a title to get a push. A rivalry could do.
Let's see, man. Let's see. We also had, I think a face-to-face kind of interview with Raquel Gonzalez and Mercedes Martinez. I believe the NXT Women's Championship match is next week, right?
Yeah.
So we had these 2 women, taking shots at each other, saying Raquel Gonzalez saying that Mercedes is a veteran, but in just 1 year she reached she reached the top of NXT, became the champion. Nice back and forth here. It didn't feel scripted, felt a little genuine, and we love genuine promos, not scripted promos like we see on the main roster. I'm talking to you, Rhea Ripley. So what do you think about this segment, man?
Yeah. So WrestleMania Night 1, when they had the weather delay, they had random promos and they were so good. Rollins, Owens, they rocked the mic and they didn't even have a script. In that sense, it's good. And plus these backstage promos makes it feel more important. They have green screen, they're sitting there. And Mercedes Martinez, as she says, she has a 20-year journey. And she tried to win the title from Io Shirai with Tony Storm in the picture as well. But I think she's a, random challenger right now. She's a go-through challenger. Gonzalez is going to beat Mercedes Martinez and not losing the title to her.
And I talked about earlier, how Cameron Grimes is the best part of NXT. I would also say the storyline going on with, Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez is also somewhat intriguing.
It's interesting because now when you see all these big stars, Tony Storm, you see Frankie Monet, none of them are actually sort of entering the title picture. They're just randomly speaking to Raquel, maybe dissing her in some lines, but they're not entering the picture. You could probably see a turn here that Dakota Kai becomes the heel because they have already built Raquel as a face character. I see. When she beat Io Shirai, she was all tears and she was smiling and all that. Heels don't do that. So she's a face character right now. I could see Dakota turning on her, but again, I hate to say this, but I think she's also a go-through challenger. She won't win the title.
I think they will take the title of Raquel sooner. And I don't think she's getting a long
Okay.
title reign.
And why do you think so?
I don't know. I think if you think about it, I think she was not destined to win the title this soon, because I didn't expect her, to take the title of Io Shirai at Stand and Deliver. But now that they have given her the title reign, and if she's going through Dakota Kai, then I think she's dropping to Dakota.
So you probably see a lot of challenges here. Is that why? Because Raquel Gonzalez has won the title now, and even I didn't expect it. When Stand and Deliver was announced, I wasn't finding any proper name to put my hand that, okay, this is going to be the challenger for Io Shirai. And they say that Raquel Gonzalez is going to be the one. I said, right now they were a tag team with Dakota Kai. They just lost the titles on the inaugural night of the titles. And now she's put into the main title picture. So in that sense, you might be true. But Dakota beating Raquel Gonzalez clean without any help because they don't have any other people around them. It's going to be one-on-one, face-to-face. In that sense, I don't see a reason of giving Dakota Kai the title now.
She doesn't have to beat her clean. She could use cheap tactics.
In that way, it could be true. And Raquel Gonzalez getting a long reign, it could be that she won't, because you have Karrion Kross, who's obviously not losing the title soon. You have Johnny Gargano, who's having a normal reign right now. In that sense, you already have a champion who's going to have a long reign. So in that sense, yeah.
What else did we have? Am I missing something here before we get to the main event?
No, we have the main event now.
Oh, so it was for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. We had The Way, Indy Hartwell, and Candice LeRae. So they were facing Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. But before that, they showed us a clip of The Way. So they were in the locker room. We could see Dexter Loomis creeping from the door. I think he had some flowers for Indy. But Candice noticed this and didn't allow Indy to what's the logo? Yes. So what do you think about this whole Dexter Loomis Indy Hartwell situation?
We always see WWE's love for romantic storylines, be it Lashley and Lana and Rusev in 2019 or any of these current storylines. Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt, they were a love story for some time. So WWE loves these things, but I didn't expect Triple H to go the Vince route and go for romantic storylines. So Dexter Loomis is a villainous character, a scary character. So going with Indy Hartwell, I don't see what this is leading to. Probably Gargano versus Loomis for the title or something, but I don't know where this is leading. I normally like it. I don't feel that this is a major thing, but it could be leading to a title match in the future.
But do you think it is hurting the Dexter Loomis character?
I don't actually, because Dexter Loomis is a villainous character, as I said. So during these times, you need something or the other to change the character probably. Right now, if you look at him, even giving the flowers and stuff, you still know he's a heel. You're not looking at him as a face character. So that is already in the mind, plus doing different things like this, out of the box things. I like this fact.
And I believe, I think they are slowly taking him off this NXT North American title picture, because they have placed this guy with, Bronson Reed. I think he's destined to win the championship this time. So I think Dexter Loomis will be taking a backseat, and his main focus is just Indy Hartwell.
Yeah, they could be doing that, because Bronson Reed now is getting probably his second chance at the title. He lost at Stand and Deliver, but the match was really good. So in that sense, Bronson Reed could be getting the title this time. But as Dexter Loomis is linked with Indy Hartwell, who's with Candice LeRae, and Johnny Gargano is her husband and all of that. So them keeping him silently in the title picture, but not fully telling us that he's going to face Gargano.
We also had a segment involving Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart. So I think Frankie Monet's dog just puked in their tank. So that was it.
Yeah.
So no tank here tonight. And by the way, even Shotzi Blackheart's new theme sucks.
Yeah, they're building random themes on NXT. WWE needs to know if people liked Roman Reigns' theme song doesn't mean they like everything. Because that guy was destined to have a new theme song since SummerSlam. We knew he was getting a theme when we didn't know. But I think they should stop putting random theme songs here and there because when you notice NXT, you don't listen to the actual theme songs. I don't know why, but when it's WWE, I listen to when it's going to be Edge. I know it's going to be on this day and Roman Reigns and all of that. But NXT theme songs are just random sounds, I feel. So if you're changing the theme song, it doesn't mean a lot of things.
Def Rebel is really good at making theme songs. I like
Yeah.
Johnny Gargano's theme song. We had
Hmm.
Seth Rollins and Bailey's new themes. So those were good. But as of
Hmm.
now, since 2021 came around, they are just doing generic themes.
Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, none of those two guys had a good theme. They came in into that big match, the unsanctioned match, and they should have some theme. Maybe you leave Adam Cole with the Undisputed Era theme. Roman Reigns also had the Shield theme song.
I
It's not
think
a problem.
I I think this is a situation with this whole CFO. I think they are not
Hmm.
allowed to do theme songs. I think
Yeah,
sorry,
that's
not
why
allowed
Keith
to.
Lee's theme song got ruined.
They are not allowed to play these theme songs anymore now that they are gone. Something like that.
And in that sense, where do you see Roderick Strong going? Because he resigned from NXT. It was very clear that they said, "You're welcome at NXT." He's resigned from NXT. Where do you see him going?
You know, now that you said that, I wouldn't have been shocked. So when they did this angle, two weeks later, we had the big quote unquote, budget cuts. I wouldn't have been shocked if
Hmm.
he and his wife were released.
Hmm.
But back to your point, obviously this is a storyline now. I think they will
Hmm.
bring him back on TV with Marina Shafir as a manager, and I think he's going straight after Kyle O'Reilly first.
Okay, but he resigned from NXT. In that sense, don't you see him going to the main roster?
No, that's instant death, man. That's instant death. You don't want to go where Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon are working.
And in that sense, you are true. But resigning in NXT, but William Regal respectfully said, "You're always welcome." So he might come back and have a good story. And now it's main event time, man. Let's do it.
So okay, now that you mentioned Roderick Strong, I would say if he can go after Kyle O'Reilly first, and if he loses or falls under the card, you can always put him in the cruiserweight championship picture.
Yeah, he could lose a bit of weight. I don't think he's under 205.
He could make that range. They could
Yeah, he
gimmick his
can.
weight.
They're small guys, actually.
So let's quickly get to the main event, man, for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. Was this a street fight or a false count anyway?
It was. It was a street fight.
So I think we had the way Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae becoming the new NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. It was obvious to happen because they lost their previous match, so it was fitting to win the titles this time. And by the way, the match was okay. Shotzi Blackheart was doing crazy spots left and right. I think she did a senton from the on the ladder on Candice LeRae, and she dove off the structure and did a crossbody on Indy Hartwell. So new tag team champions. What do you think about this match?
So match based, they had great spots, and I have to praise Indy Hartwell here because she's really sloppy in the ring generally, but she carried herself really well in this match. And she also did a reverse swanton from the middle row onto, I think, Ember Moon through a table. So that spot was really good. Breaking ladders, breaking the announcement table, it was all good. And as a fan, I'm always excited to see title changes on a show. On random shows, this is a weekly show. This is not even a big show. But I love to see normal title changes. This wasn't shocking. I think you're right because it was expected. They lost at the pay per view. In that sense, I loved the match. I loved the title change. and I think the way is going for big future.
And what do you think about this whole situation with the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship in general when they were introduced? Did we really need a NXT a tag team titles for the women's over in NXT?
I think they did. They strongly needed it because, as you see, there are a lot of women in NXT in the entire roster, not teams, but individually, there are a lot of superstars. And Triple H probably doesn't want them to be wasted like they are on the main roster. There are so many superstars who are not even used on the main roster. And in that sense, NXT wanted to use all these women. As I said, Tony Storm and Zoe Stark. Small rivalry, they're still continuing. Frankie Monet not yet fought in a ring, but she's there in promos and vignettes. So in that sense, they're using them well, and the titles were really needed on NXT.
And but doesn't it devalue the main roster tag team titles, because the original plan was to defend these titles on all three brands, which didn't happen.
They were defending on NXT a bit less, a lot less than the main roster. And I've questioned a lot of decisions lately. At WrestleMania, Natalia and Tamina, they were getting a massive roar from the crowd in Tampa because obviously it was the Samoan influence in Florida and all that stuff. Tamina was getting a really good, pop from the crowd, and they still give the titles to Nia and Shayna. They have random title matches on Raw with Naomi and Lana. They keep losing. I don't see, and you could have given Raquel and Dakota a longer reign, but they probably wanted Raquel to be the NXT Women's Champion. So in that sense, it's been a bit of a confusing booking. But I think the NXT, talking about the devaluing thing, on the main roster titles, the women's tag team titles don't mean anything right now. People just don't want to watch that story. But on SmackDown, they're slowly building Natalia and Tamina to take the titles. So if they take the titles, I hope that in the future the titles become relevant.
Anyways, man, who do you think is going next? I think they are placing Kaden Carton and Casey Catanzaro to go after the tag titles.
They could in that way, but I think Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart could be getting a rematch. So in the following weeks, next week, they have a packed card. They have a really good card. The NXT Women's Championship is on the line. Then they have the Cruiserweight title on the line in a 2 out of 3 falls match. So they have Kushida and who's
Santos
this guy?
Escobar.
Yeah, Santos Escobar going in a 2 out of 3 falls match. So that's going to be a good match. But I don't see anyone else except, Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter could be going for the titles.
And you did a good job, reminding me about the whole Cruiserweight Championship situation. They were also part of
There
the
was
show.
a short promo.
Yeah, with Legado del Fantasma. So I think all three guys wanted championships. I think who are the teams? Mendoza and Wild. So these guys want MSK for the tag titles, and Escobar wants the Cruiserweight Championship, and Kushida himself opened the challenge, gave challenge Escobar for a title match, and we are getting 2 out of 3 falls now, and I think that's his farewell from the Cruiserweight division. I think they are slowly sending Escobar for the bigger and better things, as you could say.
Yeah, because Escobar had that short 1 week feud with Karrion Kross when Kross didn't win the NXT title. They had that match, they had that small short feud. So they could be putting him in the main title picture. But I am finding this difficult because they're putting a lot of people there. They're putting so many people in the main title picture. You need credible contenders for the Cruiserweight title as well. If Santos Escobar he was undisputed Cruiserweight champion. And I think, in my opinion, it wasn't a good way to take the title off him. He's had his biggest win of his career. So give him a small little, time with the title, then take it off him. So if you talk about Escobar moving to the main title picture, I wouldn't want that.
And I think I think it's due now. Let's put him. I think if we can do something with the North American title picture, or just float around the Cruiserweight division and other stuff.
Yeah, in that sense, Santos Escobar against Gargano. You talk about these matches; these feel like dream matches. If he goes after the North American title, then it feels fine. I won't push him to the NXT title picture.
And Kushida could do, wonders with the Cruiserweight Championship.
Absolutely. He was doing some good stuff without a title in these matches with, Pete Dunne and Finn Balor and all these superstars. He was doing good matches. And now that he's got the title, he feels like a credible superstar on NXT. And I feel he's got a good future.
And did you notice in this segment? So Legado del Fantasma are his, right? But these guys are over with that NXT crowd.
Because these major wins that they've got, maybe that performance that Legado del Fantasma gave in Stand and Deliver, they gave a great performance at that triple threat match. Escobar giving that phenomenal performance against Jordan Devlin, winning the title and doing all that stuff. They're over with the NXT crowd, but again, they are NXT graduates, the superstars who are standing outside in the crowd. So that's okay. Maybe they're building them as faces. I don't know.
And it also has to do with MSK. These guys are getting booed as baby faces.
Yeah, I don't know what happened because MSK was built as this beautiful, childish face team, and randomly they are being this heelish team who are using these tactics to win and all of that. So probably this is a character change in both the teams, and moving into the future, maybe one of these factions, not only the one faction, Legado del Fantasma, could be getting all the titles.
I think the crowd turned on them just basically because they were getting over pushed. Because in a
But
month,
the
in just
crowd
month,
is
in a
yeah,
month,
the crowd is
month,
NXT people.
but there is certain hatred towards the team if you think about it, because these guys, got over pushed. Just in a month, they won the Dusty Classics, and the month after they won the tag titles. Because they could have done that, but I get that. But let's see.
Because there is a lot of comments on this that when a single superstar or a team debuts, don't give them the title instantly. I say why not? Because if you debut so many superstars, if you keep all of them for the future, that will not give them the title right now, maybe 6 months, 8 months, then who will win the title at this time? You had someone like a Riddle coming to the main roster. They hired him for a certain time. Now he's getting the major push that he deserves. If you're on screen with Randy Orton, that means you're important. So in that sense, I don't think MSK winning the title was a problem. But yeah, the crowd's reason for hating them could be that they got a really early push.
So that was NXT, man.
It was a good show.
I would say decent show, and they have
Okay,
built it. And
how
I
would
think
you rate it on 10?
I think generally I would be rating every NXT show 7 out of 10.
Okay, 7 out of 10 would be good. Just for the main event, because I like the main event, I would rate it a 7.5.
So I think they have built a similar show for next week with all these championship matches.
Yeah, they have the NXT Women's title, they have the Cruiserweight title, and probably I see a triple threat incoming, a triple threat or a fatal four-way with Kyle O'Reilly, Dunn, Balor, and Gargano, with the winner going to cross.
So who do you think gets that title shot? Kyle O'Reilly?
I don't know, man, because we've seen these superstars, we've seen similar scenarios that a person, a face character loses the title, he goes into a multi-man number one contenders match, and the former champion wins. So I have a gut feeling that Balor is going to win this match, but they could be pushing Kyle O'Reilly after that major win over Adam Cole.
Let's see, man. Let's see. And before we leave, where can these guys find you?
Okay, so as Suprit does Slam Up Wrestling, I also have a YouTube channel and a talk show. It's called Ghar Baithe BC. You can check it out. And you could also check out Wrestle Fanon because I'm the freaking world champion. So you could find me there.
You can find Slam Up Wrestling on Twitter at Slam Up Debut, Instagram at Slam Up Wrestling. You can catch the audio version of this review on Anchor and Spotify as well. And this was the NXT review, and see you guys next time.